spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel database with plot synopsis and character bios on this story. So we're going to be looking at John Byrne and Chris Claremont before Uncanny X-Men. Marvel Team Up, number 59 from 1977. This paved the way for the duo to team up in Uncanny X-Men. Chris Claremont was already writing Uncanny X-Men, and we got here Spider-Man with Yellowjacket and the Wasp. Now, Marvel Team Up was always Spider-Man with somebody. So, we got this cover here, "No, Wasp, no," and she's yelling, "You can't stop me. My husband was murdered before my eyes. I'll avenge him or die trying," she says. And we, of course, see a fallen Yellowjacket, who is Hank Pym at this time, and this is before the slap heard around the world. So, all right. I have these issues, but not in the original incarnation, actually. I had them when they were reprinted in the 80s in Marvel Tales. So, Marvel Tales always did some kind of reprint. So I remember, and if I did have the original, I destroyed because they are in so much. I hope to God there were the Marvel Tales reprints. Otherwise, they're not too expensive, these issues. But all right, so some say the world will die by fire is the title of our stories. And so we're at the Queensboro Bridge, halfway between Roosevelt Island and Manhattan. Spidey's on his way home from Sunday dinner at Aunt May, feeling footloose and fancy-free as he swings across the East River when a fire blast coming out of nowhere, no chance to dodge. If I don't let go of my web line, I'll burn. So, you can see Byrne is drawing very John Romita-like. John Byrne was pretty new, and I'm sure he was told to keep to the Marvel style. And some say by ice, then, is the other part. And you can see he's hit by that. And you can see here is our credits of John Byrne and Chris Claremont. This is, of course, again, before the John Byrne X-Men run with Claremont. Before Dark Phoenix, before everything. So, I also believe that Claremont and Byrne were also doing Power Man and Iron Fist maybe around this same time. So, John Byrne was, I believe, already showing he could do two things. So, Chris Claremont also was writing Miss Marvel later on. And so here we go. He never reaches the other side, so you can see Manhattan here. So, and you can see Claremont's giving us a time frame here. So, 8:41 p.m. Riverview Terrace, just south of the bridge, specifically the duplex penthouse of Janet and Henry Pym. And so, the Wasp here is saying, "Starlight, star bright, the first star I see tonight." And so she makes her wish, and she says, "What could you possibly want to wish for?" "My husband, for a start," she says. "I haven't seen Hank for over a week now, ever since he closed himself in his lab." "Well, speak of the devil." And so Hank comes in. Jan, honey, wait till you hear the news. I've modified my new Yellowjacket powers, increased them tenfold. And so you can see that Hank Pym and is sort of the same as Reed Richards, just kind of immerses himself in his work. And of course, she's like, I'm not interested, Hank. Not in your work, not tonight. It's you I'm interested in. And so she takes off her robe to show her nightgown here, her lingerie or whatever, which is funny because he's been gone. And so what is she doing every night, putting this on just in case? So, and so Hank Pym says, so I see. Dumb of me not to have noticed before. Hey, some sort of light flash beneath the bridge. I wonder what. And Wasp is like, Hank Pym, stop it. Just curious, my love. It was probably a police car strobe. Oh, shut up, you big bug, and kiss me. She says, whatever Jenny wants. So, uh, so the mood lasts all of a minute, and then you see all these lights coming in. Good God, says Hank. And Wasp is like, Hank, what's happening? And Henry Pym says, some sort of fire beam shooting out across the river. I don't believe it, Jan. The beam's changing from fire to ice in mid-blast. It's incredible. Hank, look, falling beneath the bridge. It's Spider-Man. He's not trying to save himself. He must be hurt, possibly unconscious. I'll go get him. I'm coming with you. Okay, so I know it's a comic book. Let's not overthink it. At the speed he's falling, by the time he puts on his mask and gets out there, dude is already hitting the, you jump off a building. It takes what, a few seconds, and Spider-Man was hit by the Queensboro. I'm just saying, there's no way for him to catch him. That's all. But I always say it's comic books. So let's not overthink it yet. I do this all the time. You people are probably like, yes, Jose, we get it. All right. And so, again, Hank says, I'll go get him. You're not. And he says, you're not. Your nightgown's made of stable molecules, Jan. It won't shrink when you do. And this is too cold a night to be exciting the neighbors, he says. And she's like, very funny. So I was right. The impact shocks knocked him out, but after the fall like that, he's lucky to be alive. I better take him to the apartment. And so you can see he picks him up, but someone's watching this. It's as well equipped as a hospital, and considering Spidey's reputation, a lot less of a hassle. Once done, I'll come back and check on his assailant, who's watching him. Kind of looks like the Beast, so. And so here we are. Spider-Man's having kind of a dream here, picturing Gwen Stacy falling and fire and ice here. And he wakes up having a nightmare. They left him with his suit on, so but nice of them to put the blanket on him. So, oh wow, it was only a nightmare. It felt so real though. Where am I? The last thing I remember, I was swinging across the East River, and then I was on fire. And here comes the Wasp, wearing a different costume, because I think she had on a different costume every time somebody drew her. So, you're thawing in the Pym living room, wall crawler, courtesy of Yellowjacket Lifeguard Service. Someone ambushed you, pal, and you took a header into the water. My helpful hubby fished you out. And Spider-Man's like, oh. And Yellowjacket says, no luck, Jan. Whoever zapped Spidey was gone by the time I got back. And aha, our guest is awake. How's he doing? It might confuse, I think. Don't worry, Spidey. You'll feel better after you drunk some hot cocoa. Thank you. But you say I was attacked? And Wasp says, by fire and ice beams. It looks like you have any... it looks like. You have any enemies that fit that bill? She asks. Miss Pym, this really hits the spot. Call me West, pal. My my pleasure. You know, I have friends who fit that bill of yours. Iceman and the Torch. On a long shot, I checked them out. The FF aren't home. FF, of course, is the Fantastic Four. And so he says, an Iceman's in Los Angeles working with a new West Coast group, the Champions. Back to square one, I guess. Hey, wait a minute. I have fought someone with those kinds of powers. It was a long time ago, and here, of course, it says Marvel Team Up number 23. And it was more Torch and Icy's gig than mine. Match had told me about it a couple of months later. They'd been investigating a robbery I'd foiled at Favershams, the jeweler. They ran into a bit more than they bargained for. And so here you see a guy called Equinox, the thermodynamic man, and he's like half fire, half ice. That would be a hassle. Cold and heat at the same time. So Torch said heat and cold rippled up Equinox's body in waves. He fired ice from his hands when he was blazing and fire when he was frozen. He gave them pretty hard time until they hit him simultaneously at the precise moment of his molecular change. In an instant, he built to critical mass and he exploded himself into atoms, says Iceman. There was no body, nothing but a crater. They never learned who he was, where he'd come from, why he'd stolen only an atomic clock from a store loaded with millions in jewels. And so Wasp says, or why, if he's still alive, and the one who ambushed you, he wants you dead. He says, yep, could be he bears a grudge. Don't all the villains bear a grudge? After all, if I hadn't steered Torch to Favershams, he'd have gotten away scot-free. And Hank Pym here says, Spidey, I still owe you for helping me save Kurt Connor's son. And, of course, this is a Marvel feature number 4. So they're trying to connect everything. I'd like to. Give me a hand, Doc? Thanks, but no thanks. I've always been pretty much of a lone wolf. And whoever's gunning for me, I'd prefer to handle on my own. You see his spider sense is tingling, which he, of course, says, hold it, my spider sense is tingling. Yellowjacket, Wasp, someone's outside the room, about to. And so Claremont says, make an entrance, wall crawler. On second thought, maybe I'll take your offer after all, Yellowjacket. And so you can see they're blowing up their apartment. Oh, that insurance rate. And he says, I am Equinox. I've come for you, Spider-Man, and tonight you're going to die. And he's like, so what else is new? Chuckles, I don't know where you're coming from, but if you think this web slinger's giving up without a fight, and he hits him, he's like, ow. And he's like, you were saying, little man, his jaw, like hitting frozen granite. And now his hands are searing through my costume. Lord, the pain. And Wasp is like, Spidey's in trouble. I have to distract Equinox, so she uses her sting, her wasp sting, I think. Make him drop Spidey so I can have a clear shot at him. Oh, sorry, she was talking to Hank. Heads up, Waspy, your plan's backfired. Noxie isn't letting go. He's using him as a human wasp swatter. So, you're wasting your time, Wasp. Your puny stings are useless against me. Noxie instead of Equinox. Everybody with nicknames, I tell you. They're useless against just about everybody, Buster, but there's no reason to call it quits. And are you okay, Spidey, she says. And Spider-Man is like, I felt better. And so has Yellowjacket. I love the Claremontisms, especially from the early X-Men. I'm going through Chris Claremont's run on X-Men, but I'm using the classic X-Men portion of it. So feel free to check it out if you're so interested as well. So Equinox here hits Yellowjacket, and he says, I'm not afraid of you, Avenger. I'm not afraid of anyone. Your powers are nothing compared to the nuclear fires that rage within me. And Yellowjacket thinks his tone of voice, adult, one moment young, the next as if um now he's on fire here. Coming back for more, Spider-Man. You must be a glutton for punishment. And he says, just stubborn is all. And again, he hits him and says, ow. So, and now again, we got it 9:03 p.m. So, um, and you can see all these cars are stuck in traffic here, because of the battle going up in the building. Something's happening down the block. The police are cordoning off the streets, moving the cars back. Oh Lord, I pray I'm in time, she says. That burst of fire, what? And this guy's like, look at that, will ya? Radio says some clown's taking on a couple of Avengers. Some dude made a fire and ice. Firing. But it couldn't be. Not him, she says. And so 2 minutes later, the traffic now is backing up even worse here. And this guy's here yelling, get out of the way, you bums. I'm trying to make a delivery. This fuel truck's got a schedule to keep, for crying out loud. So then we're back. And again, this is very early John Byrne. Not quite what you're used to, I know. But it's nice to see some of these artists and see their work evolve. I'm also covering John Byrne's Wonder Woman run, which is one of my favorite of John Byrne's art style. Like he is in full blown beautiful. To me, the style that he has in the mid 90s is just awesome. I love it. I think that's the best version of Byrne. Is 90 mid 90s version. So, all right. So these two are going off at each other, and Yellowjacket's like, there. That staggered him, but it took a full strength blast. If I hadn't adapted the powers of my molecular disruptor gun to my costume, increased them tenfold, he'd have murdered us by now. As it is, we're barely holding on, says Yellowjacket. Have to hit him again before he recovers. Got him, he says as he hits him, and he flies out. And of course, that lady sees him and yells his name. Terry! It's an 8-story fall from that window. He'll be killed. But, of course, he uses the same thing as Iceman here. And creates like that slide. So, and so, he heads north along the river, too intent on flight to notice a car accelerating madly down 57th Street. And she bumps into that car. He's like, lady, what you doing? And of course, she's following Equinox. And she isn't the only one. So you can see here that our three heroes are going to go and follow him. So there he is on the upper roadway of the Queensboro Bridge. And Spider-Man was like, be careful, folks. Man, this is so John Romita-esque. I've got a feeling Equinox is a lot stronger now than when he fought Iceman and Torch. I really hate the nicknames, but from the way he's stomping towards Queen, I'm sure he sure isn't worrying about anyone trying to stop him. Of course, who said that Winsome Wasp was just anyone? And so she's hitting him as much as she can. And then he swats her. Hank kind of picks her up and he says, honey, are you okay? And she's like, I'm peachy keen, high pockets. All he hurt was my pride. I should have seen that shot coming a mile away. And don't lecture me either, Hank. Not after jazzing up your powers while leaving me in the stingers that couldn't even hurt a fly. But Jan, this is no time for an argument. So, I'm married. I get it. So he says here that he's not fighting the thermic changes. He's going to let them come faster. And each change building his power and strength. And nothing on Earth can beat him. So he throws that door at him, at Yellowjacket, but Spider-Man manages to catch it with his web and move it out of the way here. So, you mind if we try Noxie? Oh my goodness. After all, it wouldn't do for an Avenger to get decked by a car door now, would it? It ruins the image and all of that, you know? And so you can see Spider-Man's going to aim it toward Equinox here. On the other hand, using it to clobber a second-rate apprentice supervillain like you will be even harder, he says as he melts that door. And I'm no second-rate raider, Spider-Man. Before I'm through, the whole world's going to know who I am. And they're going to remember me to the end of time, he says, Equinox. And so this lady here comes through and says, Terry, stop it. In the name of God, son. Stop this madness before someone gets hurt. She's running with that, I don't know what that is. And he's like, hey, you here, but that's impossible. How could you have known, says Equinox. Well, your toy won't help you, mother. And then he stops. He doesn't finish mother. Says, Margay, your failures force me to live my life as a thermodynamic freak. And if that's the way it's got to be, I'm going to make the most of it. He picks up the car. Terry Sorensen doesn't exist anymore. There's only Equinox. And Equinox kills. And she yells, no. And Spider-Man catches her and moves her out of the way as he swings. And he says, he means it, lady. What are you, crazy or something, charging up here like that? Things are rough enough already. And they're getting rougher by the minute as the car hits and then explodes. So the concussion blast hits the Wasp. And Yellowjacket's like, Jan, she was caught in that blast. She's falling at Equinox's feet. And she's reverting to full size. Spider-Man's, get the Wasp to safety. I'll handle Equinox alone, says Hank Pym. And so Equinox is like, you're a fool, Yellowjacket. And he says, we'll see. So he uses his momentum to throw him off. But as he lands, he knocks him out. And so you can see here now that they're going into another fight here. What do you guys think of early John Byrne? Pretty interesting, huh? Everybody starts in somewhere. So Spider-Man helps the Wasp up and helps her to her feet, and then Spider-Man asks this lady, who is she? And she says, my name's Margie Sorensen, Spider-Man, and Terry, Equinox, you call him, is my son. You must understand, he's not responsible for what happened to him. He's very ill, but I think I have the cure, she says. Think isn't much to go on, Mrs. Sorensen. Not when your boy's turning the east side into a war zone. So Spider-Man swings to get the Wasp out of the way here. They're going to go help Yellowjacket. Now, here's the thing. Remember that truck? Don't say it unless you're going to use it. And, of course, there was a whole point to mentioning that truck is always coming. Because you can see they notice that, oh, no, it's a field truck. And they're like, get out of there, Yellowjacket, before it. And then Equinox says, it's too late, hero. Yellowjacket is doomed. And you can see that he aims at the truck and it explodes. And Spider-Man was like, oh my God, Terry, my son, as you see this great explosion. Great use of 3/4 of a splash page with just the faces here. That's actually pretty cool. So for a seeming eternity, no one moves, their mind refusing to accept what their eyes have seen. And in the middle of the inferno, Janet Pym cries out. She can't help it. Hoping against hope that Hank has survived. Hoping against hope. And so Equinox comes out. Equinox has triumphed, he says. Yellowjacket is dead by my hands, and I've emerged more powerful than ever. Nothing in the world can stop me now. Wasp, Mrs. Pym, don't. You're still too weak. You haven't. Take your hands off me now, mister. You think you're something, don't you, punk? You've killed a man. Well, you killed my man, she says, and that's something I'll never forget and never forgive. You get off on death, animal, then the wasp will give you a death, your own, she says. And so this concludes, of course, this portion of the issue. Uh, so next issue, the sense-shattering conclusion to our story, including the origin of Equinox, love, and death. So most of the time, Marvel Team Up was one and done, so you rarely got a two-parter. So um, I read this story when I was in elementary school. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was a reprint because I was I was just a baby in the when this would have come out. So it would have been a Marvel Tales, I believe. So anyway, Marvel Team Up by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, number 69 from 1977. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.